I'm cutting your hours to part-time. Take it or leave it, my boss said, leaning back in his chair with a smug grin that made my stomach twist. His words hit me like a slap. After 20 years of pouring my heart, my time, and honestly, my life into this company, this was how it was going to be. I blinked, trying to process what I'd just heard. Excuse me? My voice barely sounded like mine. Frank tapped his pen against the armrest, looking pleased with himself. You heard me, Rachel. Part-time. Budget cuts, restructuring, all the usual excuses. His hand flicked lazily through some papers on his desk like he couldn't even be bothered to look at me. I gripped the edge of the chair to stop my hands from shaking. Frank, I've been here 20 years. I manage half of your vendor relationships. My accounts generate... Doesn't matter. He cut me off without a blink. You're comfortable. You've been around too long. We need fresh blood. Young, cheap, flexible. He chuckled to himself as if this was a clever joke. Take it or leave it, Rachel. Part-time starts next Monday. Benefits? Gone. For a second, the air left the room. My name is Rachel Parker, and for 20 years, I was the senior procurement manager at Crest View Interiors, a mid-sized design supply company here in Columbus, Ohio. I wasn't just an employee. I was the one who built our vendor network from scratch. From the tiny textile workshops in North Carolina to the Italian marble suppliers overseas. I'd spent years building relationships, negotiating deals, ensuring on-time deliveries. I wasn't just part of Crest View. I was Crest View. Or at least I thought I was. Frank sat there with that same smug look, the look of someone who thought they held all the cards. And for a few painful seconds, I believed he did. I swallowed hard. So that's it? No discussion? Just part-time or the door? Exactly. His eyes didn't waver. Nothing personal, just business. Nothing personal. Funny how people only say that when they're doing something profoundly personal. I stood up slowly, smoothing the front of my blazer. My hands were trembling, but my voice came out steady. You know what, Frank? Thank you. Truly, thank you for making this decision so easy. His smirk faltered just for a split second, like he wasn't sure whether I was breaking down or about to punch him. You can consider this my notice. I grabbed my purse. I won't be back on Monday. Or ever. Whoa, hold on. Frank sat forward. You don't want to think this through? Oh, I've been thinking this through for years. I turned toward the door. You just gave me the push I needed. As I walked out of his office, past the desks and halls that had been my second home for 2 decades, I felt a wave of something unexpected. It wasn't fear. It was relief. I sat in my car, hands on the steering wheel, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked shell-shocked. But beneath that, something sharper was beginning to take root. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over my contacts. I knew exactly who to call. The first name, Marco DeLuca, owner of one of the largest marble import businesses in the Midwest. A man I'd worked with for 15 years. Someone who always said, Rachel, if you ever go out on your own, I'm with you. The second, Karen Lee, Textiles, our biggest supplier for the past decade. She once told me over coffee, Rachel, you're the only reason we put up with Frank's nonsense. And the third, Sanjay Patel, owner of an exclusive hardwood supplier. A friendship built over 18 years of late shipments, crisis management, and late-night problem-solving calls. I scrolled to Marco's name and hit dial. Marco, it's Rachel. Rachel. Hey, how are you? What's going on? His voice was instantly warm. I took a deep breath. Marco, I've got some news. I'm no longer with Crestview. A beat of silence. You're kidding. What happened? Long story, but I'm calling because I think it's time. I'm opening my own shop. Full-service supply for designers and contractors. Smaller, boutique, but run the right way. No bureaucracy, just honest partnerships. He didn't even hesitate. You have no idea how long I've waited to hear you say that. Rachel, we're in. Exclusive contract. No more Crest View. I'll send the paperwork tomorrow. I sat there stunned for a second, and then smiled. One down, two to go. By the time I ended the next two calls, the outcome was the same. All three, my most valuable vendors, agreed to exclusive contracts with me, effective immediately. And here's the thing. Crestview couldn't operate without them. Frank had no idea, not yet, but he was about to find out. As I sat there in my car, phone buzzing with follow-up emails and contract drafts, a thought hit me so sharply it nearly took my breath. 20 years of loyalty, 20 years of giving them everything. And all it took was a smug little sentence from Frank to set me free. He thought he'd cut me down. He had no idea. I'd just begun. I woke up the next morning before the sun had even risen, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. It wasn't fear. No, this was adrenaline, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. By 6 a.m., I was already at my kitchen table, laptop open, coffee in hand, drafting the framework for my new business. I didn't even have a name yet. But the contracts from Marco, Karen, and Sanjay were already sitting in my inbox. Signed, sealed, ready. A decade ago, something like this would have terrified me. But today, it felt like freedom. Around 8:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Thomas, one of the warehouse guys at Crest View. We'd worked together for years. Rachel, something's weird. Trucks aren't showing up. Frank's losing it. Did you hear anything? I stared at the message, a slow smile spreading across my face. Right on time. Meanwhile, inside Crest View's beige, soul-sucking office, chaos was unfolding. I wasn't there to witness it firsthand, but Thomas would later tell me everything. It started with a missing shipment of marble from Marco's company. Frank brushed it off. Probably a delay. Then the textile order from Karen's company was a no-show, followed by the hardwood shipment from Sanjay. 3 separate orders, all marked as canceled. By 10 a.m., Frank was pacing the floor, his tie loosened, barking at the warehouse team, customer service, anyone who'd listen. Call them. Get someone on the phone. Find out what the hell is going on. But the answers weren't what he expected. Marco's assistant. Sorry, sir. We no longer do business with Crestview Interiors. Karen's operations manager. Your account was closed yesterday. Permanently. Sanjay himself. It's not personal, Frank. Business decision. By 11:30 a.m., the reality started sinking in. Crestview's 3 largest supply lines, the backbone of half their product catalog, were gone. Not delayed, not on hold. Gone. And the worst part? There were no alternatives. I knew that. Because I was the one who spent 20 years negotiating those deals. I'd built them to be airtight. Exclusive pricing. Guaranteed delivery schedules. Custom material allocations. Frank had always bragged that Crestview's supply chain was bulletproof. Funny. Turns out the bullet was me. I was sitting at my dining table reviewing logo concepts for my new business when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I had a pretty good idea who it was. I let it ring twice before answering. Rachel, it's Frank. His voice was tight, strained, but trying badly to sound casual. Hey, quick question. Did something happen with our vendors? I paused, just for a beat. Oh, did they not tell you? I asked, keeping my tone light, polite. They've signed exclusive contracts with me, effective yesterday. Silence. Utter, perfect silence. Wait, what? Are you kidding me? Rachel, come on. You can't do that. We've worked together for... He was sputtering now. 20 years. I finished for him. Yes, Frank. 20 years. I let that hang in the air for a second. And in the end, you thought I was worth part-time hours and no benefits. Okay, let's not do this. he snapped. Look, we can work something out. Come back, full time. We'll discuss a raise. Hell, I'll even talk bonus structure. I almost laughed. The desperation was dripping from every word. Frank, you made it clear yesterday. This isn't personal. It's just business, right? I said, letting his own words slice through the phone line like a knife. Rachel, be reasonable. We have contracts, orders, clients depending on us. You can't just... His voice cracked. He wasn't in control anymore, and he knew it. Oh, I didn't just do anything. I spent 20 years doing this, building relationships you never valued. You made your choice yesterday, Frank. And so did I. I hung up. No yelling, no screaming, no theatrics, just professional silence. Within an hour, my phone lit up with texts. Thomas. Frank is losing his mind. 3 clients already canceled orders. Warehouse is dead silent. Never seen anything like it. Maya from accounting. Did you really sign exclusives with the vendors? Is this real? Lena from sales. Frank's calling emergency meetings. Clients are furious. Honestly, good for you, Rachel. You deserved better. But here's the thing. I didn't take joy in watching Crest View burn. Not really. Because beneath the chaos, the missed shipments and the panicked phone calls, was a deeper truth. This was never about revenge. It was about realizing something that had taken me 2 decades to understand. If you spend your life building someone else's dream, they'll never value you as much as you value yourself. The mistake was thinking loyalty would be repaid. It rarely is. As the sun started setting, I poured myself a glass of wine, leaned against my balcony railing, and looked out over the Columbus skyline. Tomorrow, I'd sign the lease for my new office. A blank space, a fresh start. And for the first time in years, it was mine. All mine. By the time morning rolled around, there was no turning back. At 8 a.m. sharp, I stood in front of a small, sunlit office space in downtown Columbus. It was nothing like the corporate, gray-walled maze of Crest View interiors. This place was different. Open. Bright. Full of possibility. The leasing agent handed me the keys. Congratulations, she smiled. First day of the rest of your life. She had no idea how right she was. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The space smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings. Hardwood floors, exposed brick, big windows overlooking the street below. Empty? But not for long. I set my tote bag on the dusty desk in the corner, pulled out my laptop, and powered it on. This was it. No title. No bureaucracy. No smug boss leaning over me with backhanded compliments. Just me. And the terrifying, exhilarating reality of starting something from nothing. I spent the next 3 hours filing the LLC paperwork, setting up a business bank account, purchasing a domain name, and registering for all the licenses I needed. It was tedious, overwhelming even. But every form I submitted felt like a brick being laid in the foundation of my future. At 11 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was an email from Karen Lee, my textile supplier. Hey, Rachel. Just wanted you to know, we've already informed our entire network that we're exclusive to you now. Also, one of our longtime clients, a luxury design firm, is looking for a new supplier since their current one can't meet demand anymore. Should I connect you? My heart skipped. This was happening. Absolutely, Karen. Please introduce me. I replied immediately, fingers flying across the keyboard. An hour later, I was on a Zoom call with the design firm's CEO, Elena Ortiz, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who ran one of the most sought-after firms in the city. We've heard of you, Elena said, raising an eyebrow. You were the reason Crestview ran so smoothly all these years, weren't you? I smiled, modest but firm. I was the procurement manager. I handled most of the vendor relationships. Yeah, we figured. They've been a disaster ever since you left. Her lips twitched. Let's talk about what you can offer. By the end of the call, I had secured my first major client. A high-end contract that would keep my new company afloat for months. No fancy pitch decks, no middlemen. Just one simple truth. When people trust you, they'll follow you. Meanwhile, back at Crest View, things were unraveling faster than anyone expected. Thomas texted me updates throughout the day. Client cancellations are pouring in. Frank's trying to outsource supply to random vendors, but no one can deliver fast enough. 2 designers walked out today. And Lena, she just gave her notice. She's heading your way. I blinked at the screen. Lena? Sure enough, 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Rachel, please tell me you have room for one more, she said without even saying hello. I can't work there another day. It's a sinking ship. I laughed. Come by the office tomorrow. Let's talk. By 5 p.m., I was exhausted, but a good kind of exhausted. The kind that comes from building, not surviving. I stood by the window watching the streetlights flicker on and thought about the last 48 hours. 2 days ago, I was sitting in Frank's office, stunned, humiliated, and heartbroken as he told me I was too expensive for the company I helped build. Now, I was fielding new client calls, reviewing contract drafts, and setting up interviews with talented people who wanted to join me. But as excited as I was, reality still hovered in the back of my mind. Starting a business wasn't just contracts and office space. There were risks, bills to pay, no steady paycheck yet, no safety net. For a flicker of a moment, doubt tried to creep in. What if this fails? What if I made a huge mistake? What if Frank was right, and I really was replaceable? Then my phone buzzed again, this time an email from Marco, the marble supplier. Just a heads up, Frank tried to call me 6 times today, begged me to resume shipments. I told him politely, no, I'm with Rachel now. For good. I sat back, letting the words wash over me. This wasn't just happening. It was real. And in that moment, staring at the screen, a quiet but unshakable thought settled deep in my chest. I was never replaceable. I was just undervalued. Frank didn't fire me because I wasn't good enough. He fired me because he never believed I'd realize how much power I actually held. As I shut down my laptop for the night, one final text popped up from Thomas. You might want to check Crest View's Google reviews. Looks like the clients are figuring it out too. I opened the page and scrolled. Review after review. Orders delayed. No materials. What happened to the old team? If Rachel's gone, so are we. This company isn't the same anymore. Unreliable. Disorganized. I laughed quietly. Frank's empire was crumbling. And mine? It was just beginning. By Monday morning, my tiny office no longer felt empty. It was buzzing. Lena arrived at 8 a.m. Sharp, coffee in hand, a determined look on her face. I couldn't sleep. I'm ready. Let's do this, she said, dropping her bag next to a secondhand desk we'd found over the weekend. By noon, I'd hired Maya from accounting, who walked out of Crest View Friday afternoon after her 3rd unpaid overtime week. I realized something, she told me, sliding her resignation letter across Frank's desk. If you can afford marble floors for the executive lounge but can't pay your staff, I'm out. I spent the next few hours creating our service catalog, setting pricing models and drafting marketing emails to potential clients. My inbox was filling faster than I could respond. Word had spread, faster than I ever imagined. By 3 p.m., we secured our second major client, a commercial design firm that had worked with Crest View for years but was now deeply dissatisfied with recent supply chain failures, as they politely put it. And while my little team was building, back at Crest View, everything was falling apart. Thomas texted me updates almost hourly. Rachel, Frank called another emergency meeting. 2 more clients pulled their orders today. He tried to patch things with Karen. Total failure. She told him, quote, you should have valued Rachel while you had her. Oh, and get this. He's offering Lena's old accounts to interns. Interns. Then, just after 5 p.m., my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I didn't even need to guess. I picked up. Rachel, it's Frank. His voice was thinner this time. Not the arrogant, smug tone from last week. Number this was different. tight, controlled, but strained underneath. I've been meaning to reach out. Look, this has gotten out of hand. I think, I think we should talk. I raised an eyebrow, even though he couldn't see it. Talk about what, Frank? Look, I may have acted hastily last week. Cutting your hours, it wasn't personal. The company's under stress. You know how these things go. Do I? I said coolly. Yeah, well, anyway, I've been thinking, maybe we could figure something out. Maybe bring you back. Full time. Better title. Better pay. Senior operations lead. We'll put the past behind us. I let the silence stretch for a long, delicious moment. Frank, I finally said, I appreciate the offer, but I've started my own company. You already know that. Look, Rachel, we're both professionals. Be reasonable. This thing you're doing, it's risky. You've got no infrastructure, no warehouse, no... And yet, I interrupted, you can't seem to keep your shipments running without me. The line went quiet. Rachel. He sighed, voice small now. Please, clients are walking. Vendors won't take my calls. We've got contracts, deadlines. Look, let's meet. Name the place. I shook my head, staring out the window at the golden afternoon sunlight. Frank, this is exactly what happens when you treat people like disposable assets. Loyalty isn't a one-way street. Rachel, he started, but I'd already made up my mind. Good luck, Frank. Really, but I'm not coming back. And I hung up. An hour later, there was a knock on my office door. It wasn't Frank. It was Eleanor, Crest View's lead sales director. Her face was pale, eyes hollow, and her hands shook as she held a manila folder to her chest. Rachel, do you have a moment? I blinked. Eleanor, what? I can't do it anymore, she said, walking in without waiting for an invitation. I'm done. I'm finished watching that man burn the place down. She dropped the folder on my desk. Inside were client lists, vendor contact sheets, pricing models, basically Crest View's entire sales infrastructure. I want to work for you, she said simply. I want to help you build something better. I leaned back, speechless for a moment. Eleanor? Are you sure? Rachel, that place, it's a sinking ship. Half our clients are already calling around looking for alternatives. You are the alternative. You've always been the real engine behind everything. By the time I left the office that night, I had a team of 4, a rapidly growing client list, and more vendor support than I'd ever imagined possible. But something else happened that day. Something bigger than just leaving Crestview behind. I realized I was no longer trying to replace what I lost. I was building something better. Something where people were valued. Where work meant something. Where loyalty was actually earned. As I locked up for the night, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. You should know, Frank's in talks with bankruptcy lawyers. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, not with fear, but with an overwhelming sense of clarity. The collapse wasn't mine. It was his. And tomorrow would be a whole new chapter. By Wednesday morning, my office wasn't just busy. It was buzzing like a beehive. Phones ringing, printers humming. My inbox was exploding with inquiries. Clients, vendors, designers, all reaching out, some out of curiosity, others out of desperation. Is it true? You started your own company? Are you taking on new clients? Can you get us the same materials as before? Actually, faster? The answer was simple. Yes, and better. I glanced around the office. Lena was juggling 2 calls at once, jotting notes on sticky pads covering her desk. Eleanor sat across from me, hammering out a client proposal that just a week ago would have belonged to Crestview. Maya was reviewing contracts with a sharpness that made me grateful, and slightly terrified to ever be on her bad side. And me? I was standing in the middle of something I'd never thought I'd have. A company of my own. At 10:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification, a text from Thomas. Rachel, check the business news. Right now. My stomach tightened. I opened the local Columbus Business Journal app, and there it was. Front page. Crest View interiors facing operational collapse as key vendors withdraw. By Melissa Grant, senior business reporter. I skimmed the article, pulse pounding. Sources confirm that Crestview Interiors has suffered massive operational disruptions after the sudden departure of their senior procurement manager, Rachel Parker, and key sales staff. Multiple long-standing vendors have terminated their contracts with the company, citing concerns over leadership and business practices. Clients report widespread delays, canceled orders, and broken agreements. Industry insiders speculate Crestview may be forced into bankruptcy within weeks unless major restructuring occurs. There was even a quote from Marco. Our business is built on trust. Rachel was the reason we worked with Crestview. When she left, so did we. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. This was real. This wasn't a private fallout anymore. This was public. The entire city, the entire industry knew. Before I could even put my phone down, my email pinged. Subject line, congratulations. It was from Elena Ortiz, the CEO of the luxury design firm I'd signed just days earlier. Looks like your timing was perfect. Our clients are thrilled with the transition. We'd like to discuss expanding our contract with you. Are you available this afternoon? I blinked, barely believing what I was reading. Yes, I typed back instantly. Let's schedule it. It was surreal. 1 week ago, I sat in Frank's office, clutching my purse, blindsided as he told me I was being cut to part-time like I was disposable. And now I was fielding expansion proposals. Meanwhile, the messages from inside Crestview kept pouring in. Rachel, HR just sent out a notice that payroll might be delayed. Maya, who thankfully wasn't there anymore. Frank just stormed out of the office. Someone said he was yelling at his lawyer on speakerphone. Thomas, 3 more clients are threatening to sue for breach of contract. Lena's old coworker. And then came the message that nearly made me drop my coffee. Rachel, he's listing Crestview's assets for sale. Desks, inventory, the warehouse, everything. I read it twice to make sure it was real. I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window as the sunlight filtered through the glass. It was happening. The company that told me I was replaceable was crumbling without me. And not because I sabotaged anything. Not because I stole anything. Not because I plotted some grand revenge. They collapsed because they never understood the simple truth. When you don't value the people who build your company won't survive. Later that afternoon, I met with Elena and her team. What started as a check-in quickly turned into something much bigger. Rachel, she said, folding her hands, we'd like to make you our primary supplier for the next 2 years. Exclusive. You've proven yourself faster than anyone I've worked with in this industry. My throat tightened. Elena, that's an incredible offer. Not just an offer, she smiled. It's a partnership. The kind Crestview never understood how to nurture. By 6 p.m., my team was gathered in the office. I stood at the front, hands shaking a little. But not with nerves. With disbelief. With pride. Everyone. We did it. We passed our first milestone. We are officially profitable as of today. There were cheers, hugs, a few happy tears. I wasn't sure if one of them was mine. I raised my glass of cheap sparkling wine. To the company that values people, to the clients who believe in us, and to the future, which is ours to build. Glasses clinked, laughter filled the room, and for the first time in my career, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. As I locked up for the night, a single thought floated through my mind like a quiet whisper. This isn't revenge. This is rebirth. It was exactly 4 weeks to the day since I walked out of Frank's office for the last time. 4 weeks since I was told I was too expensive. 4 weeks since someone who never understood my worth tried to reduce me to part-time. After 20 years of building his company. And now, here I was, standing in my own office, watching my team buzz around, fielding calls, confirming orders, onboarding new clients. My company was no longer just an idea. It was real. Thriving. Growing. I glanced at the framed sign we'd hung above the entrance just last week. Parker and Company, Supply Solutions. Simple. Clean, but powerful. My name. My future. At 9:15 a.m., Lena walked in holding a coffee cup and an envelope. "You're going to want to see this," she grinned, dropping it on my desk. I raised an eyebrow, peeling it open. Inside was a printed screenshot of a public bankruptcy filing notice. Crest View Interiors, LLC, filing under Chapter 7. Complete liquidation. It was official. Crest View was gone. I stared at it for a long moment. It wasn't joy I felt. It wasn't triumph. It was closure. The final punctuation mark on a chapter that, for so long, I thought would define me. "Guess who's looking for a job?" Lena added, pulling her phone out and scrolling. "Frank, posted on LinkedIn last night. Open to work. Seeking senior leadership roles in operations or supply chain." She rolled her eyes. Wonder how he'll explain that to recruiters. I didn't say anything at first, because the truth was, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even bitter. In a strange way, I was grateful. "You know the funny part?" I said, leaning back. Frank always thought he had the power. He thought he was the reason Crestview survived, the reason clients stayed, the reason vendors signed. But it was never him. Lena nodded. "It was always you." "No." I shook my head. "It was always the people. The ones who showed up every day. Who built relationships, managed the chaos, solved the problems. The people he thought were disposable." Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Karen Lee, my textile vendor. "Just got a call from one of Crestview's old clients. They're desperate. I told them to call you." A second buzz. This time from Marco. "Rachel, FYI, one of the big developers downtown wants to meet with you. They're shopping for a new primary supplier since, well, you know." And a third from Sanjay. "Congratulations, Rachel. Feels good to work with someone who actually knows the business. Let's grow this thing together." I smiled, setting the phone down. This wasn't luck. This wasn't an accident. This was the direct consequence of knowing my worth, of walking away the moment someone showed me they didn't. At noon, my team gathered in the conference room for our weekly check-in. The energy was electric. Clients were coming in faster than we could onboard them. The backlog was already big enough to justify expanding. "We need more space," Maya said, flipping her laptop around to show the numbers. "At this rate, we'll outgrow this office in 6 months." "Good problem to have," I smiled. "A warehouse would solve half our issues," Eleanor added. "I know a property manager who can show us a few listings." "Let's do it," I said. "Start the calls. Let's think big. No limits." As the meeting wrapped up, I looked around the room. These weren't just coworkers. These were the people who believed in me, who left comfort for risk, who chose me, not because of a paycheck, but because of trust. And then, as if the universe had one last plot twist left, my receptionist poked her head in. "Rachel, there's someone here asking to speak with you. Walk in. Says it's urgent." I frowned. "Who?" She hesitated. "Frank." For a second, the room went completely silent. Lena blinked. Maya's jaw actually dropped. "He's here?" Eleanor whispered. "What does he want?" "I don't know," I said, standing. "But let's find out." I walked to the front lobby, and there he was. Frank, formerly smug, formerly untouchable. Now, smaller. His suit was wrinkled. His tie hung loose. The man who once wielded control like a sword looked defeated. "Rachel," he started, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I just wanted to say, congratulations. Seems like you're doing well. I crossed my arms, waiting. Look, I made some mistakes, he continued, his voice cracking. I underestimated you. I didn't realize how important you were. To the company, to the vendors, to everyone. I nodded slowly. You didn't, but now you do. He shifted awkwardly. If you ever need someone with my experience, I'm open. Just putting that out there. I stared at him for a moment, and then, calmly, I replied, Frank, I wish you the best. Truly, but we're building something different here, and there's no space for the way you did business. Not anymore. I held out my hand. Take care of yourself. He shook it, nodded, and left. And just like that, the last ghost of Crest View was gone. As I walked back to my office, my team stared. Was that? Lena started. Yep, I smiled. It was. And I think it's time we stopped looking back. I grinned. We've got a future to build. I sat back at my desk, watching the sun pour through the window, and a final thought settled quietly in my heart. The power was never theirs. It was mine. It always was. And now, it was time to own it.